Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to the ZX. The end result for this video will be that the Bosch pump gets fitted in placement of the Lucas pump. And I'll go into a bit more detail with the differences between the Bosch and the Lucas pump. We'll also go into a bit of the setup guidance of what we need to change in regards to changing from a Lucas pump to a Bosch pump, and also finally how we're going to get the Bosch pump running, because we need to get past the immobilizer aspect. We'll get started doing that now then. This was locked off with the timing, but I've just taken those two bolts out which I locked it up with, because that doesn't need to be timed up now because I'm going to be removing the pump. I have left all the alternator belt and everything on, and I've just pulled the thing. If you're doing this job on your vehicle and you're not entirely sure how old the timing belt is, or you take it off, it looks a bit ropey, or it's just coming up to the age of where it should be done, I would highly recommend replacing that. I'm not going to be replacing that, because if anyone's been watching through my videos, you will notice that this belt is literally only a couple of weeks old and it's done no mileage, so I won't be replacing that. I'm changing the pump out because this one is leaking. Lucas pump, Bosch injectors, they don't match together properly, so that's another reason why. We'll go more into that a little bit later in the video. I'm going to get you set up on the tripod and we'll get this pump removed. Wasn't supposed to drop that, but I found it. That was a 19mm. This should just come off like so. Now in the slot here we've got a little keyway. Just so we don't lose this, I'm going to take this out now, just like that. That's a little half moon shaped piece of metal, goes into a slot on the pump, so I'll put that safe over in my pot. Let's just undo the fuel lines and get rid of them, get them out of the way. And now we've got this, which I'm going to take off because that's got a flathead key on there. I'll just pull that off, because on the Bosch pump it's the other side, but that's fine because I'll pull that out. As you'll be able to see, there's plenty of room to put it around the other side, so that's not an issue. So I've put a 13mm bolt with a nut on it at this bottom corner, and then we've then got three 13mm nuts to hold in the pump. There's one just there, there's one hiding just underneath there, and there's one hiding around the back here. So I've got that one out, I've got the one underneath there out, I've got the one at the back out. I've literally got one left which is just there. I'm leaving that for now because I'm literally going to undo these, which are 17mm. Everything's out of the way. We've got one bolt, one 13mm nut now holding that, and then that will come straight off. So let's get that off. Now with this carrier, you don't have to change it. You can double nut it and move it to the next stud across, but I am going to be removing the carrier just so I can show you guys a bit more detailed. And to remove it, it's just literally 4 13mm bolts, and then there will be a locating lug which sits just there, also there, look. So now we're going to head to the shed and do some little bits of comparisons. Right, so we're going to do the throttle cable. So we're going to need, I'm going to be able to steal this rubber bung off of here, and that's going to go nicely onto the Bosch pump. And then as far as stealing anything else off of here, is nothing else I can steal. Onto the Bosch pump, we've got the Bosch fuel lines here. They're bent differently, but for now let's remove them. So we'll put them to one side and keep them for when we fit the Bosch pump instead. So that rubber bung I showed you, I'll just pop it in just there like so. That's where my accelerator cable is going to go, and I'll clip it onto there as well because it will hook behind there, and then that'll go on there nicely. Both cogs, if you put them above each other, the two timing marks and the keyway all line up perfectly on both cogs. So that one and that one. See if I can hold it and show you a bit better. If you look down there, the keyway lines up perfectly, that hole lines up, that hole lines up, and just so I can rotate it over. And also, whilst the keyway lines up perfectly, the timing is off slightly. So if you look, the timing teeth are out slightly. So these cannot be mixed up for which cog does what, because one is for Lucas and one is for the Bosch. This one is, and I'll show you another thing as well. If you look carefully on here, if I zoom back out, you'll notice that that one's set in where this one's quite flush, and then that one's recessed in more, and this one's quite flat on the top. See that? So what you'll find as well is you can't mix them up, so you can't reuse them. Another way to tell as well is because I've put both the fascia plates of both pumps in line with the edge of the bench, and I've put the cogs on the wrong way round on purpose just to show you as well. So if you do go, oh well, I'm doing this job, which cog's which, you can easily tell because that's your issue. Whereas if I put them on the right way round, you'll see in a second, you'll see straight away that they're both now in line with the plates being in line. So that's another way of checking whether you've got the right cog or not if you're doing this job yourself. Also, the firing order on the engine is, this is cylinder 1, this is cylinder 2, cylinder 3, cylinder 4, and the firing order goes cylinder 1, 3, 4, and then back to 2. That's the order of the cylinders firing. And something else I want to tell you about this is, another difference between the Lucas and the Bosch pump is, right, so these are both set up as they would be in the vehicle. You can see access to both of them. First of all, I've got a blue plug on here and a black plug. This one's only got the black plug. Both 4-prong, they're both identical plugs, so hopefully, fingers crossed, it might be plug and play for that. Now we've got 4 points for the injectors on each of these. Now the Lucas one goes in order of 1, 3, 4, 2, because that's the rotation that the engine's going to do. So that goes 1, 3, 4, 2. So that's the starting point of number 1. But on the Bosch pump, however, that isn't number 1. That isn't 1, 3, 4, 2. It goes in the same order, but what you'll find is it skips 1, and this one's number 1. So that is the reason why you need to use the Bosch fuel lines and why they're bent separately, because what you'll find is this is number 1 on this pump, but this is number 1 on this pump, but the order is the same. That goes 1, 3, 4, 2. This one goes 1, 3, 4, 2. So that's why you've got to use, it's a must that you use the Bosch fuel lines for the Bosch pump and the Lucas lines for the Lucas pump. Also behind here, right, is 4 wires that go into there from this. And this one, however, the Lucas one, only has, well, it's actually broken even more now, only has the 2 wires on the top. So you'll see on the start-stop solenoid here, that would have been connected to there, and that's how that was, and it's fallen apart. On the aspect of the wiring, there's 2 wires here on this 4-wire plug that do nothing, because I've taken the protective cover off just to have a look, and I've also noticed that this one that's just broken is effectively just bare copper wire. So I've no idea how long that was going to last for anyway before it would shut it down and not put fuel through, because this is confusing because it literally only goes 3 wires on it. 1 wire goes to that point there, just literally one straight down to this point, which looks like it might be a stop solenoid, I'm not entirely sure, and the other 2 wires literally go to a micro switch just there on the top, which is controlled by the throttle. So literally just that. So I ain't really got to worry about that switch at all. I've only really got to worry about what that wire is supposed to do, if anything, if I even need to do anything with it. The final thing is this carrier that I told you about. Now this is the one that I've just taken off of the car, and you'll see that this has got the locations in it for the Lucas pump. However, this is the one that came with the Bosch pump, and it's got the locations. Don't be fooled though, because they look similar but they're very different. And the thing about it is, what you'll find is if they're in these holes, so the far left holes, the lower, that's the lower one, that's the left one, and that's the right one looking in there. But if they're counterclockwise, in the counterclockwise holes, they're for Lucas. If they are clockwise, as in up a hole, across a hole, across a hole, that's the Bosch location. So I am, however, going to just put this pump bracket in, but if you haven't got the convenience of a second pump bracket, you can double nut these, undo the studs and move them to the next location. I can't be bothered to do that because I have this one here that I can put straight in. So guys, what I've done so far is I've changed this cap over, just the 4mm hex bolts on there, to the one that will fit the fit the Bosch pump. did say in my previous video about changing these studs over. I was just going to change the studs over, but the reason I've decided to do this is just because it's easier just to bolt another bracket on. I have it, so why not? And I'm at the point now where I just want this working. I will apologise though, because I will do a bit more and then come back in a second. The reason for that is basically because I am fighting, I don't know where you can see it, but it's really cloudy and it has started raining. So I'm going to muddle through in the rain and bring you back where and when I can, just to update you. So you're back again, guys. What have I done so far? Well, all the fuel lines are in, all the covers are back on. There's an 11mm bolt down the back there. Make sure you put that in, because if you don't, that allows that to drop over time and that could chew your belt up. There's a 10mm hiding just down there. We've then got the 10mm hiding down there and a 10mm there. We've got the fuel line still in because I never touched that one. As you know, we've got this fuel line in. This is on here with some brand new copper washers, and we've got the return line, brand new copper washers with the 90-degree angle bend going to the original fuel line, because that originally had this piece in it, which was for the Lucas pump, because it would have connected down at this side. So again, instead we've connected that one up. That's got the return line there as well for that. I've done these fuel lines as well, all of them, and I've also done this down here as well. As you can see, just there is the cold feed. Still got to put the throttle cable on. I've still got to put the starter motor on. The timing pins are all out, as you can imagine, to put the covers on. I've rotated it over a couple of times. All the timing marks still line back up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to basically put the starter motor back in, put all this wiring back together, the pipes on and stuff, and then I'll bring you back. So I've got the electrical tester out. I've got on the negative, I've got to find positives and stuff on this socket. As you can see, it's all pretty much back together. I've got to try and work out what positives do what on that. I'm just making myself a little thingy, and if I look at the plug there, 1, 2, 3 and 4, I found that 4 is ground and the other 3 seem to be coming through as intermittent positives, regardless of how I put the ignition. So I've got to work that out and see what's going on there. So I'm going to have a bit more of a play with this. Once I finally work out what to do there, I will come back and let you guys know. So this is just a little update. Back again soon, guys. I thought I'd butt in here, guys, while I'm doing the edit for this video. This is the moment where I realised that I hadn't removed the armour plating to gain access to the start-stop solenoid, so I could actually get the pump to give me some fuel. So I had to then go down the route of removing all the armoured shear bolts and the armoured plating. I was so annoyed with myself that I didn't even realise how much work I'd done before, from this point to where I am now on the next bit that you'll see. I didn't even realise how much work I'd done in the process of basically where I got to. Anyway, enough of my interruptions. I'll let you get back to the video. Right, so guys, we're back here again. This is starting to become loose. I am trying to get into here. I've cut into here. I'm trying to get this plate off so I can get to the start and stop solenoid, because if I can get to the start and stop solenoid, which is hiding behind this armoured steel plating, with it's full of these armoured steel horrible bolts on it. But then at the same time, if it was easy, you'd probably be able to have someone pinch your car quite easily. Actually, in a way, I give credit to Citroen for doing it this hard, but at the same time, while I'm having to do this job, it's posing to be rather stubborn. Before I end up actually damaging something to the point of where I have to end up replacing the pump or trying to source fuel lines or anything like that, before I end up actually damaging something, I'm going to take a backward step, and I'm going to remove the timing belt again, and I'm going to remove the pump, and I'm going to do it on my workbench. I'm going to get to this solenoid on my workbench because it is just being ridiculously stubborn to part with these bolts, because there's one literally just there where my finger is, which you can't even see, and I can't even get the camera in there. So if I get this on my workbench, I'll show you what I mean. So we're in the shed with a partially dismantled Bosch pump. because I took all this switch mechanism off the top before I took it out the car, but that will go back on. I'm glad I took it off because I've actually found one at the bottom here that I didn't even know existed, but that's literally what we're working with, guys. And that one there, just between, just there where my thumb is, would have been, was going to prove next to impossible. And then I've got that one there where I've cut some of it away already. So basically I'm going to get that off because I've got to get this plate off, because if I put it down here it goes underneath that, so I can't just lift it. And if I put it over the other side, it goes underneath there as well. So I want to try and do as clean as I possibly can with this, and just take this whole piece off, which is loose already, but I need to get it off. So that, to get that off, I need to take this plate off, take those bolts out, and then I can actually get access to the solenoid. So that's why I've done a backward step and removed this from the car again. I've got all the timing pins in the engine again, and I'll bring you back to show you what I've done here, and I'll put it back on the car and we'll go back to where we was very shortly in the video. So guys, this is what the bolts look like. This one's relatively undamaged because it was literally sitting just there, and I was able to get some needle nose vice grips on it and undo it. So that's why that one's relatively undamaged. But the one that was sitting just there, so I've got these taped up to stop any iron filings going. The one that was sitting just there and the one that was sitting just in there, where my finger is, I've turned them into sort of flatheads, and I use my screwdriver. I've got a bashing end on it so I can whack it with a hammer. Use my screwdriver to knock it round each little bit at a time until it was ready to undo. Now where I've got all these out, this will now all just lift off like so. That piece there, so that piece there is the only piece I'm keeping, because even though this has got the handy words Bosch written on the side of it, anyone who knows what this pump is will know it's a Bosch anyway, and I know it's a Bosch, so I don't care if it's got a Bosch brand name on there or not. So all that lot isn't going back on. I'm just going to put this bracket back on, back into its locations with some nice new screws. Yes, there's not going to be anything in those two holes, but it doesn't need to be. And I'm just literally going to leave it like that. That solenoid there, that is a tuning screw, which is also covered by the bracket. I may or may not look into doing something with that in the future. I'm not entirely sure, but this is where we need it to be. This solenoid needs to have power go on to this point just here, and that's loose because I've taken the wiring off already. But what stops that from going on there is there's 4 wires going in, look. One of these is a ground, and I would have to redo the ground on the pump. I'll just put the ground somewhere. And basically this electronics module, I'm not entirely sure what it does or why it's, or how it works, should I say, but it literally goes off, and then eventually when you put the key code in, it will tell something in here to put 12 volt power to that. That'll put 12 volt power to that point, which then puts it onto there, and then I'll be able to get fuel through. So I'm literally going to bypass all of that and just put 12 volts there. That will give me my fuel outlet. So let's get this back on the car, finish wiring up on it, and then hopefully we'll get her started soon. Don't mind the jump lead on the ignition live at the start motor. I've just been using that to kind of try and turn the engine over just to check a few things. Let's just say I was hoping to bring you back with the fuel lines all installed, the glow plugs in, and actually bring you back and go, yeah, it's running, it's lovely, then turn it off and then kind of go through everything with you as to what I've done, because this is the 3rd time I've put this pump on, and it's been about a week's worth of work, because this armour plating on the back that's no longer there was an absolute nightmare to remove. And I don't know how well you'll see, but just in there we have the top of the start stop solenoid, and we've got a positive ignition positive going to that, and I've got the negative from the plug lead just attached to that pin just there, because when you actually smash the plastic electronics apart, this little metal plate just on the top there is moulded into the plastic, and I thought I'd reuse that with its 2 original bolts that held it all together, to give me a ground point. So that all goes off down this wire, goes off to this plug. I've got this plug here, and I've also got the key on inside the car. If you listen carefully, I'll bring the camera right in. So basically, if you listen carefully, I'm going to plug the power lead in, and you should be able to hear that start-stop solenoid click, hopefully. And the reason it's clicking multiple times is because I'm just plugging and unplugging the plug. But I'm ending this video here, and the reason I'm ending this video here is purely because, I mean, something didn't sit right. I didn't seem to sort of trust this pump as much as I would have liked to. It's timed up nicely, that's why I put all the covers back on, but something just didn't seem to sit right. And what I've actually found was the bottom two are firing fuel out lovely. This one was firing fuel out lovely, and then it decided to stop. But this one here, which is the point that puts fuel to cylinder 3, never worked. And I could not, however hard I tried, however many times I tried to rotate the engine, I just couldn't get it to work or put any fuel out of any kind. But the bottom two was always spraying fuel, top two are a bit intermittent. So it actually turns out I'm going to have to remove this pump for a 4th time. I was thinking 3rd time lucky, but I'm going to have to remove it again and actually send it away to be refurbished. So guys, well, I've decided I'm going to put this video out anyway, even though the intention was to end the video very differently, where I can say to you, yes, lovely jubbly, it's done and that's it, hey presto. But my luck doesn't go that way, I'm afraid, as we see. But then also, I was kind of risking it a bit anyway, because even though the pump worked in the scrapyard vehicle, that was running in the scrapyard vehicle about 8 months ago. And the problem with those pumps is, if they're not stored with diesel in them or recently refurbished, they get bunged up on the inside. I kind of knew that, but I kind of hoped I'd get away with it. But the way my luck goes, I don't get away with very much, to be honest. I am going to source some prices and see what I can do about getting it refurbished. I don't know how long that's going to take me to get to that point, so I don't know how long it's going to be before we'll be putting a refurbishment pump back in this car, because money is really tight. The reason I'm still posting this video is because the moral behind it is how to change a Lucas pump to a Bosch pump on my engine. Is the principles there, what you have to do to remove the immobilizer is there. So even though I haven't got the engine running, if the pump had worked okay, then I would have got this engine running. So the aspect of why I'm posting this video is purely and simply because it's still going to help you guys out, even if it is a bit of a sad and annoying ending to it. But yeah, so drop me a comment if you would like to. It's entirely up to you. And I will say take care, stay safe, and bye for now. Just before I do go, there'll be another amazing video up in this corner, and my subscribe icon will be down here. Please consider subscribing because it helps the channel grow. Bye bye.